It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When as an athlete will you get hurt? And how fast can you properly get back to playing? Today we learn a great deal about sports injuries and recovery from Dr. Mike Flores of AMP Sports and his team of professionals. Technology in sports medicine plays an important factor in today's game. Learn firsthand the proactive methods used by AMP and the philosophy behind both the mental and physical aspects of being healthy and playing. I'm Paul Higgins. This is Coach's Corner, and all the action starts right now. So, Dr. Mike, to treat athletes, I'm sure that you are an athlete and have an athletic background. Tell me about that so I have a better understanding for your passion of what you do.
Okay, well, I played college soccer. What got me into what I do was actually a career-ending injury. One of those things where you couldn't come back and play where you were at your maximum optimal performance. It's been a long kind of withstanding injury. I was mentored by a young sports chiropractor at that time who ended up being my first mentor in this field. And that's got me into what I do here today. He was a guy who said, I'm not gonna stop being an athlete. I may not play college soccer anymore, but I'm still gonna be active, be competitive, and perform better than I possibly can given my injuries that have come about. And that's something that got me into this field, and it's something we've carried over as part of our AMP mindset and our whole AMP program.
So it's very interesting you say that, because I remember in high school I had a knee operation, and I was wrestling and I was skateboarding, and I couldn't wait to get back out and do those things, but it was very frustrating as an athlete at that time. But I learned over the years how to kind of go about my life, and then when I see other athletes go through the same thing and I can talk about it with you, that's got to mean a great deal that you understand what they're going through, especially if you have to treat an athlete that can no longer perform like they think they will be able to.
Absolutely, and it goes from that first doctor's visit. You know, a lot of times, you know, as kids we're programmed when we go to doctors, or when athletes go to doctors, it's never a good thing, you know? But here we develop an environment, and I like to develop an environment where you're excited to get better. You're excited to go through your rehab, your prehab, whatever it is, to get you back from your injury. And that whole mental mindset and that switch that we develop, and that we are able to engage with that athlete and engage with their goals and what they want to accomplish, that is something that I thrived upon as an athlete and coming back from something. And I know that we get our patients and our athletes here to thrive upon. And it's just one of those things where if you lose them from that first visit and it becomes something you see you can't do it, as an athlete, we all grew up with like hearing the Michael Jordans, the Tiger Woods. Can't is not in those guys' vocabulary. No one says Tom Brady can't do and can't play past 40. He's doing it because that's not in his vocabulary. And we don't say that. There's no no's and there's no can'ts here. Very interesting, because obviously Tiger Woods bounced back, had a pretty good year so far. Tom Brady in his 40s now, doing pretty well. Even though David Espinoza, one of our producers, does not like that because he's a Denver fan.
Oh, well, I'm a Raider fan.
You don't like it either.
I didn't like it in the early 2000s.
Yeah. But how do those athletes, you see how Tom Brady is going about his business of getting on the playing field and playing long. And Tiger Woods comes back from surgery after surgery, especially with his back. How do those athletes do that? And that same type of criteria, does that fit to the high school athlete, the college athlete?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
They may not be at that level yet, but with any sort of high school athlete or college athlete that is able to kind of grasp that mindset, that mentality, that hard work, and also what they put in their body and what the people they surround themselves with, their medical team, their mental team, their coaching, parents, their diet, all that goes into play in the recovery from a high school and a college athlete. Specifically in this area, when we get an athlete that comes in here, we ask them what they're eating. We ask them where they're around. We ask them what they're doing after school. We ask them what kind of classes are they taking, mental stress, all that goes into play. And if you're able to take that athlete, especially at the high school level in this area, in the Trinity League, and you're able to educate them on who to surround themselves with to better come back from an injury, they're gonna listen. And then you're gonna see the difference between coming back in 4 weeks 100% or that injury that chronically keeps coming back. because we keep doing things that an athlete like that shouldn't be doing.
You see a lot of athletes from the surrounding high schools, and I've seen them in here, and you have some great athletes. Actually, I was in here not too long ago when you had an athlete that's in the Spartan race, right? And she comes from Long Beach, and that's pretty cool to see that.
Yeah.
But I noticed that obviously you're in great shape. The people in here that work on athletes are in great shape. Tell me about that aspect.
You know, you got to practice what you preach, right?
Okay.
You know, I'm big on that. It's with our staff too. Our staff, we like that they're able to tell someone what they need to do because they do it themselves. And you got to be able to sell that, engage that. You got to be able to let them know you got to do A, B, and C, D, E, F, G, all across because I do that every morning. And our staff preaches that. Hey, I get up at 5 in the morning to go work out, to do my daily devotionals, to get mentally engaged, to get my quiet time, get my spiritual time, get my mental time before I even start work. And we tell our patients that, our high school patients, our professional patients, our Spartan patients, and they're like, dude, this guy, I'm in the right place. This guy grinds just as hard as I do. Their staff grinds just as hard as he does. And then we talk nutrition, and they see how we eat, they see that we drink our water, they see the electrolytes that we're putting in our body. No one's going to buy into the system and buy into you if you're not doing it yourself. And they see that.
Talk about the amount of injuries that you see, and I don't want to bash on any sport for sure, but in Orange County, these kids are active, and a lot of them, I hope it changes, but a lot of them are playing just one sport. So you have that repetitiveness on the certain parts of the body. But what type of injuries do you see, and do you see a variation between young boys and young girls, or men and women in general?
You do see a difference based on sex and based on sport, 100%. Just to kind of throw one out there, and then one that's more prevalent now more than ever, especially with female sports, and not just soccer anymore. Now just female sports, there's an increase in ACL injuries, as we all know, but now it's spreading straight across the spectrum. And a lot of that is happening because, you know, there's many reasons why. But one of them is the fact that there is one sport and there's no downtime from that. Okay, there is no recovery aspect. I don't like using the word overtraining. We're just not educating enough on what they need to be doing when they're not training.
Okay.
That's what I think it falls into, and including with male sports. We're seeing a lot of more low back injuries that we have in the past because young boys or young men are becoming bigger, faster, stronger than when we were kids. You know, they're either lifting a lot or they're doing a lot of different modalities that are eventually compressing their body, because a young man's idea of an athlete when I was growing up, I mean, we're looking at Arnold, we're looking at Herschel Walker, we're looking at these big guys, and our body just isn't meant to sustain that load for one sport for a long period of time. So we're seeing a high increase in low back injuries in young men, but a lot of that comes back to education and recovery. It's getting them to move, do something different. Take a day or a couple of days, and do the opposite of what you're doing every day. If you're sitting and squatting all day, open your body back up. You got to drive that new set of athletic mobility, or the complete athlete, to do the opposite. And much like in female sports, you've got to do the opposite. You're cutting, you're squatting, you're jumping down. You got to deload the body in order to increase the recovery, but also reverse what you're doing on an everyday basis. So that way that word overtraining doesn't become something that's an everyday word. It's not overtraining. It's that I believe we're not educating enough.
Great point. One other additional item to that: how do you educate the coaches on what you know without offending them? You have some old school coaches, and I think stretching, to me, in warm up is a big factor. I know when I was in wrestling, we stretched and we warmed up, but probably I could have done more of that, and it might have been even a stronger athlete. Your thoughts about that?
A lot of it is showing them results, showing them what the differences have made with the patients that you've worked on or the athletes you worked with. At the end of the day, they want to keep the athletes on the field. It's like, what's the end goal? Whether it's an old school coach, new school coach, they want to increase performance, keep the athletes on the field, and you want to show them the results. And how do you open them to it? Is you bring them in. We bring in coaches, we bring in different club presidents, and we show them what we do and how we educate, and we educate the coaches on it, and we educate them on the differences. And at the end of the day, it's you ask the coach, and then I ask, we're all former athletes, right? It's like, what
you
would
said former. I didn't say
I
former.
oh, you do. You're right. You're right. You're right. We are all athletes. What would you like to do to your body when you're not training? Yeah. And you put it back on them because they're going to come with the same question. The same question, the same answer. I wish I moved my hips more. I wish I had different types of training to open up my body more. They all say the same thing. They know the answer. We just got to get it out of them and then include them in the program.
RW Dentistry, located in San Juan Capistrano, meets all your dental needs in one convenient location. With the latest dental technology and affordable financial plans, we promise to give you the confidence a beautiful smile can inspire.
I love it. Each time I come in here, I say I love my teeth.
RW Implants and Cosmetic Family Dentistry in San Juan Capistrano. Contact them today to schedule your appointment. RW Implants and Cosmetic Dentistry.
Dr. Mike, one thing I'm curious about is the sport of hockey, because hockey plays every other day, and it's an incredibly physical, demanding sport, punishing sport. So you have these hockey players that play on ice, that smash against walls, that smash against each other, that are on blades. How do they play every other day, and why is it that football teams play once a week? What's the main difference there, and how does a hockey player continue to do that?
Well, that's a great question. That's a great question. A lot of it, I believe, it becomes on the velocity of the way somebody is punished, for lack of a better saying, on the field versus on a hockey rink. Yeah. On the field, in football, I feel like you're getting hit every single play and you're not coming out. Okay, you see a lot of these athletes, they play either both ways or they play one side, but there's not enough rest periods. Where in hockey, I feel like the training staff and the coaches do a great job of substituting players in and out, so when they're out on the side, their body's recovering from the beating that's happening on the ice from either contact or just the loads that's being put on the hips from just balancing on a blade on ice. Right. You know, I feel like hockey, there's a lot of different transitions and better substitution methods to allow these athletes to play more games during the week, but also allow, you know, ultimately for pretty long careers nowadays.
Yeah, those doctors and those physical therapists keep those men and women on the playing fields and on the ice. That's what you do here. Mm-hmm. And this is a pretty incredible place. You have some really unique tactics or approaches that you go about. I experienced that firsthand. Tell me your philosophy and what is it that's different here, and how proud you are to get athletes that are injured back on the playing field as fast as they can, proactively.
Man, that's a big question.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes into mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and chemically engaging the patient or the athlete from the beginning. Okay? It's where they say it's a dream, crusade, and then plan it. So what I mean by that is you give the patient a vision, mentally engaging them into what they're going to accomplish. And then you tell them how they're going to get there, the crusade, right? Here's we're going to go from A to B, and we're going to do this long, and this is how long it's going to take. Here's what I expect for you to feel, okay? And this, after that, engage them into the plan, okay? Fully engage them into what you're going to accomplish, because we're big on that mental part, okay? But then after that, applying the physical nature and letting them know why we're doing it, what they're going to expect, and how we're going to get there. One thing we always say is like speak it into existence. Okay. If you don't communicate, educate, and tell them how you're going to get there, if there's no final plan, we're not going to get there. Yeah. And then the result is in how they feel it. We're pretty aggressive, passive with our treatments, meaning we're going to do different things, and we're going to innovate the way your body moves. Right. Okay, but we're going to do it within your cycle and get there with the way your body allows us to, but we're going to push the limits.
Gotcha. Do you have a personal story of I'm sure you have many. I've seen a testimonial wall. Your thoughts, do you have a personal story where you're like, wow, I didn't know I was going to be able to pull this off with this athlete, but I have. You have a pretty recent one, actually. You and I were just talking about competitive cheerleader. And you can share that story, but do you have another one that pops up like, I didn't think I was going to be able to pull this one off?
You
don't have to say names.
No.
Yeah.
And he won't mind if I share his name. And then he's a real special kid to me, kind of like a little brother. Tyler Oakson.
Okay.
He comes in with a hip strain, and then he's had a past issues with this in the past, and he's getting ready to play in a game. I think it was an ODP. I think it was a big game, like a regional championship game, and he was one of those things like, hey, let's see what happens. Comes in that week, and he's all in. And we get him back to play. He ends up, I believe, kicking the game-winning penalty kick in this game. Wow. Okay, wow. Or did some sort of game-winning goal, and I can't remember exactly what it was. But that was one of those, like, you're playing at the elite level of 16, 17-year-old soccer in the entire country, and you don't even know if you're going to go. And he knew going in what he needed to do before, during, and afterwards. So that way he was able to perform at this level, and that's a good one because it's a real personal one to me because I've been around him for a while. Like, it's one of those things. If I didn't know Tyler, maybe Amp wouldn't be here. Right. No, I know Amp wouldn't be here because he was one of those first patients, him and his family, that believed in what we do and how we do it, and they've pushed us and to press on and be great. That's a big saying that we say here. And his family's been real important to the success of AMP and what we've done.
I know this is an obvious question, but how gratifying is that when you do something like that? I mean, you see athlete after athlete, and sometimes you don't get to always follow up and see what they do in the playing field. But how gratifying is that?
Oh man,
is that why you do this?
I love the feeling. It's you almost live vicariously through your patients and your athletes. Whenever they do something good individually as a team. Yeah. I'm telling you, I get goosebumps inside when I hear success stories like the cheerleading story or other stories with some of our athletes when we had just everyone that comes by either wins a national championship or wins just a gold medal in swimming, or hey, I just want to go out and play. Right. I get the fist pump, the yes. It's kind of I can't help it. I get pretty loud. I'm pretty emotional about it. I like to have fun. Yeah. I'll do a chest bump. I'll do a high five. You name it, I'll do it. But there's a lot of me inside that just like yes, because I was never able to get to those levels. As an athlete, and to see someone that was under our care, under our roof, get there, and then when they thought they probably couldn't, oh man,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't want you to diagnose this, but Dustin Pedroia, who plays second base for the Red Sox, just announced recently that he's done. He just can't figure out his knee, and he could be done. I'm not saying he's done, but he could be done. He's played 3 games in 2 years or something like that. At this level, at that level, in this modern era of medical awareness and capabilities, why couldn't they fix that? Or why can't they fix that? Or will they be able to fix it?
Wow, there's a lot of things that go into play whenever you have a chronic injury like that where just physically you can't come back and do what you do. And a lot of it, especially with a lot of these athletes that perform at that level, that elite World Series, MVP type level, it's when they can't perform at that level anymore, and he could probably come back and play and hit 200, be like what are they called, the rover guys, play second, third, play every once in a while. But a guy like that, if he can't perform 100%, that could be probably one of those things where he can't feel like he's gonna be out there. He could probably, like I said, he could probably go out there and be out there once in a while, but a lot of it, I believe, is that mental mindset from an elite athlete like that.
Your thoughts, what is your overall goal here now as you move forward? I know that you see a lot of athletes, you're totally educating yourself, your staff is constantly being educated and certified, but what is your overall goal? I know that you're a dad, and I know that you're super proud about that, and you should be. And so what personally do you want to achieve?
When we started AMP, and we want to impact young lives around me, our staff lives, everybody that walks in here, I hope that they leave here a better person. That's my ultimate goal, whether it's with AMP, whether it's in my personal life, whether everyone that I meet, and I do that because that's how I've been impacted, and that's how AMP started. It's one of those, it became a vision for a place for people to come in and not only get better physically, but also to leave here and just be like closer in their walk wherever they're at.
RW Dentistry, located in San Juan Capistrano, meets all your dental needs in one convenient location. With the latest dental technology and affordable financial plans, we promise to give you the confidence a beautiful smile can inspire.
I love it. Each time I come in here, I say I love my teeth.
RW Implants and Cosmetic Family Dentistry in San Juan Capistrano. Contact them today to schedule your appointment. RW Implants and Cosmetic Dentistry.
So, Dr. Sharon, I understand that you throw a pretty good frisbee.
Every so often, yes.
Yeah, so you have a frisbee background a little bit. You play, right? Yeah. And you've been on ESPN because you played frisbee?
Once.
Once? I used to do a frisbee show called Gultimate on ESPN too. It was like hockey, but they threw it through an arc. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Golden.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I played before.
if you were treating somebody with, elbow or shoulder, injuries, what would that injury be, and how would you treat it?
If it was for Gultimate or
Or
for Frisbee?
Yeah, that's pretty
Maybe
repetitive motion.
Tendinitis, but the Frisbee's really not that heavy.
Yeah.
So we would rarely see any elbow pain, really.
So how do you know when you have tendinitis? Because I'm pretty sure I have it, but I don't really know if I have it. It's in my elbow. Tell me, how do you know that if you're just a regular person?
That's kind of hard a little bit as a regular person because it hurts mostly through like everything that you do because tendinitis is an inflammation of your tendon in your elbow. Right. So it could hurt with like the smallest thing as grabbing something to what's the most common thing we see is in tennis players, right? Yeah. So it can go as simple as a tennis swing or as easy as like picking up your water bottle. How
do you treat tendinitis, and can you eventually get rid of it and it won't come back, or especially when you age? Tell me about that.
Absolutely. So we treat it here at AMP using our AMP process, our AMP program. Always starts with the percussion therapy. What it does is it helps break down the really tight tissues because a lot of tendinitis is overuse injuries. That's what causes the inflammation. The muscles get really tight, so we use the percussion to help break that down. Flush out the inflammation with our recovery process afterwards.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, because when I've been in here, there's been probably a 70% ratio of girls that have injuries. Do you see more girls or boys, or is it a mix depending on the type of year, the time of year?
It can be very mixed depending on the time of year, but we do see a lot of female athletes just because a lot of their sports are like gymnastics or cheerleading, which requires them to put their body into a completely different kind of stress than most other sports or athletes.
And then mentally, because you're an athlete, mentally, do you work with them? I talked to Dr. Mike about that, and that seems like a big thing to mentally overcome your injury so physically you can go out and get back on the playing field. Tell me your philosophy about that, not only as somebody that's a doctor, but also somebody that's an athlete.
Yeah, so a lot of our patients that come in, if they get injured during their play, a lot of them are hesitant because it hurts, right? So we have to find ways to build their confidence back up into getting them ready for competition when they don't know exactly what factors can affect them, because during game time, you could have anybody coming at you in any direction. So for me, being an athlete, it was always what drove me was like wanting to get back on the field to play for my teammates. So you kind of place that mentality in them, being like, do you want to play? Like, why do you want to play? Figure out their goals and what drives them, and help them get back into it.
And obviously your goal is to get them back on the playing field, get them back and ready to play, whatever they're doing. Your thoughts about why you chose this field. It's not an easy field to be in, and I'm sure that it's pretty exhausting for you too at the end of a long day. You're probably just as physically tired as the athletes that you see. Tell me about that and really why you decided to go in this field.
So I got into wanting to figure out, because I got injured a lot because I ran cross country and track in high school. So I got injured a lot with like shin splints was my big one. And my doctor that I went to prescribed 3 Advil a day, or 3 Advil per meal. So I was taking like 9 Advil a day and no running. I was like, well, this sucks. So I wanted to find ways to essentially not have to do that and help everyone else who can be dealing with the same things, find a way to like help them continue playing the sport that they love without having to rest or having to like pump themselves with painkillers.
Right, have a torn up stomach.
Exactly.
Because I've heard that. It's funny, you're bringing back things that I've heard with that Advil, and you know, I will have Advil in my pocket, and 9 times out of 10 at the end of the day, it's still in my pocket, but it's there. It's like a crutch, right? Like, oh, I could take it or not. But I could see where you're going with that. Do you think it's because maybe a coach wants to get that athlete back on the field, and that's a temporary fix to an extended trouble maybe ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are times when, you know, Advil or ibuprofen or whatever it is can be helpful just to get them like through their game or back on their field or something like that. Right. But it's not, it is a Band-Aid. It's not, you know, a cure for what's going on. If their pain doesn't go away or it gets worse after the Advil wears off, there's obviously something going on that's deeper that can cause problems, bigger problems down the road that like we want to help solve so that that injury never comes back, or they are not dealing with that for the rest of their life and just always having to have Advil in their pocket, you know?
Exactly.
Sort of thing.
I know by watching you and seeing what you've done, what you do here, that you're a fast mover. You move around this place and you tend to as many people as you can, and you do it very thoroughly. Your thoughts about how gratifying it is, and I talked to Dr. Mike about this, of treating someone and then seeing the end result, which is positive.
Yeah, for me, I've always loved helping people, and I always like helping them feel better. I think the coolest thing to see is like that instant sort of relief that they get right off the table, where, you know, they've come in with back pain or hip pain or something like that, and we work on them for a couple minutes and they're like, oh, I feel so much better, this is great. That I'm like, oh yes, this really works, you know?
How do you know when you touch a muscle? And again, you have obviously you're educated, but it blows my mind that you can touch a muscle and go, oh, yep, there it is, that's the problem, and be able to work it out or to stretch it out or to figure out what physical therapy that approach is. Does everybody have that goes in this field? Or is it something that innately you have within your own ability to do what you do?
I feel like everyone can develop that or learn that. It does come with practice. The more you've practiced in the field, the more different injuries you've seen, the more you see like what works, what doesn't, so you kind of get more familiar with the body. And obviously we all have an anatomy background as through school and like education and stuff like that. So that the basis is there, but getting hands-on, that's where you start to kind of feel, right? Putting your hands on people to feel the tissue, know whether something is tight or normal or not. That just all comes with practice, and people can absolutely develop that. What helps me is actually if I've ever experienced that injury myself. Yeah. So I've had a lot of injuries. I've had like ankle sprains, knee pain, back pain, all that stuff. So the more I experience myself, the better I can help somebody. So that's kind of where my philosophy comes from, I guess.
Yeah, you do a great job, and Dr. Mike does a great job, and the athletes that come here and participate in what you guys do to get them back on the playing field. It's amazing. I got really educated today, and so I can do a better job at what I do. Thank you, and thanks for Dr. Mike for spending time. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.